actually do, looking at the list, Allie does have 2 main deck Okos of her own. When you look at the differences in the deck, Ely doesn't have too many other than that one Mystic Forge you mentioned. Doesn't have too many high-impact cards here.
Right. The big difference that I see in Kassis' list is the fact that he has Serum Visions. That says that he is looking for specific cards and is interested in comboing rather than playing a more drawn-out mid-range game a lot of the time.
Yeah, and as we were looking at the differences, yeah, Pentad Prisms and Serum Visions and the Mystic Forge. But those cards, you know, don't do a whole lot on their own. They just smooth things out.
Exactly.
I actually really like that approach. A lot of ways you're just really reducing a deck down to exactly what it's about.
Right, he's looking for the payoff cards and doesn't really care about any of the frills other than Oko, if you can call that a frill.
Sure. Both players starting on Arkham's Astrolabe into Mox Opal. So in this matchup, at least game 1, how much interacting are we expecting? Is this just a combo race?
For the most part, it's just going to be a combo race. It is worth noting that Oko is a way to interact with either player's artifacts or creatures, as you can say Elk their Thopter Foundry or Elk and Urza, for example. Other than that, for the most part, I would just be expecting the 2 players to be racing to the combo.
Second of his 3 colors there, Ely Kassis, getting Watery Grave.
One of the interesting dynamics you can end up finding is if both players have access to Pithing Needles, it actually just becomes such a long slog.
So this is Oko. Oko, the Thief of Crowns, had started to see some play just a few weeks ago in the Urza decks out of the sideboard. Really, the evolution in this last month has been now this card is in the main.
Yeah, and the big reason for that is, at the very least, the card is just generating an artifact every single turn and giving you a way to exchange any of your duds for reasonable cards that your opponent may have.
Right, so that +2 to create a food token, but Ely will go with the second ability, +1, turn Mox Opal into an Elk.
You know, I actually think Antlers look okay on Mox Opal. I wasn't sure it could pull off the look, but it's an aesthetic.
Now it's a 3/3. As oftentimes is the case, it means that Allie will be able to attack Oko, but one hit from an Elk is not enough to send the Planeswalker away.
And this is one of the advantages now to Ely being on the play, is he's just so far ahead on mana because he was both able to answer Allie's Mox Opal and develop his own a turn ahead of schedule.
This reminds me of old human mirrors where both players would start a Noble Hierarch and then the person on the play would Reflector Mage the other one's Hierarch.
Yeah, and the other person's just out of the game.
Right, I mean, both players turn one Mox Opal and it's like, well, I have the Oko first, and he Elks the Mox Opal on the other side.
Oh, here's an interesting rule.
Second Mox Opal, Legendary rules away the Elked Opal.
Oko does not change names or super types.
Right, so it was a Legendary Elk named Mox Opal.
Opulent antlers, if I've ever seen them.
I think we need to put in a request. Those 3/3 Elk things we put on the cards, they need to just be little antlers that you slip onto the top of the card.
I've seen an oversleeve like that, where it just put antlers around the frame of the card, which is so
nice.
Cute. All right, here we go.
So this is the namesake of the deck, Urza, Lord High Artificer. Gonna bring a construct token in. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4 already. That is bigger than an Elk.
Oof.
Taps to make a blue mana, which will cast Nihil Spellbomb.
And here we just see Ely getting out so far ahead. Oko rolling up to make food is going to let Urza generate mana if that were something that Ely wanted to do here.
Yeah, how much of this, at this point, is Ely trying to combo, or is he just going to go beat down? You know, turning his own Astrolabe into an Elk, swinging for 8, 9 next turn.
Looks like Ely's just checking the payment on this Nihil Spellbomb.
Sure. Right, because... yeah, I think they should be fine. Right. He can make blue mana with his spell bomb, or with any artifact, filter it through the astrolabe into black mana.
Right.
Oko will elk the other Mox Opal. So, kind of going back to my first question, there's, I think, 2 ways Ely can go from here. He can either still try to wait for his combo, or he can answer Allie's cards with Oko, or he can start using Oko on his own creatures to try to attack here. And do you feel like there's one's going to be better?
I think for the most part, you're just going to be interested in trying to combo off, because especially as good as these decks are at gaining life, basically, you're using things like Ensnaring Bridge, Oko to gain life, just stay further away from death. It's unlikely that you're going to kill your opponent in a Wurzimir 3 points at a time.
Back over to Allie we go. So far has had 2 Mox Opals, which have both grown antlers.
Hard,
just passes.
Hard to make come up with original Oko antler material when it's the same card twice in a row.
Perhaps a Whir of Invention in Allie's hand here. Has that look to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'd be surprising if Allie just completely passed the turn here for no reason.
Chromatic Star from Kassis. That is now his, it's like 6th artifact. Construct scales for each artifact, so it's a 6/6.
And you know, it kind of looks like Ely is thinking about getting busy here.
Well, if he has no other payoff, he kind of is forced into the line.
Well, Urza's allowed to look for payoffs.
That's true. Okay, so yeah, just to make mana to shuffle and get free cards. Food token. That does feel like it's an attack then. So this brings the construct up to a 7/7.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just kind of gets to hedge his bets a little bit here. It's unlikely it's going to put him up to a different multiple of 5 when he activates the Urza. So here you might as well just get the shot in while you can.
There is the swing. Allie has to think now about Whir of Invention on her side. Of course, both players are trying to combo here. That combo being Sword of the Meek plus Thopter Foundry. Eventually plus Urza.
And you know, if Ely doesn't have interaction here, it's very possible Allie just wins.
So here is Whir of Invention for 2. So could find Thopter or Sword. Looks like Thopter Foundry is the pick here.
Summon it to the front.
And I actually thought that's interesting is catching, yes, she has, because it's a Whir Invention deck, a lot of interesting main deck cards available here. For example, she has Damping Sphere main. Termod's Crypt main.
And it looks like both players have kind of leaned into this package a little bit. We see the Nile Spellbomb hanging out on Kassis' side of the battlefield as well.
Allie down to 12. Does she have Sword of the Meek now in hand? That would be the second half of the combo. That combo, a slow value combo, and then until Urza shows up.
Okay, so she's cracking her 4th land in this Scalding Tarn.
All right.
This smells like an Urza.
Right.
It could be an Oko, but those Astrolabes fix mana already, so it's unlikely she's looking for a different source of mana.
It just actually needs the 4th source.
Right.
One, two, three, four. That is an Urza of her own.
And this is kind of playing a dangerous game where Allie needs to be able to go for something here because Oko can just elk that Urza next turn.
Right. And looks like some mana that's being made.
Oh, wait. Is this going to be a Whir in response?
It is. And originally I was wondering whether it was just going to be an Urza activation, but I think you're right. It's a Whir.
Oh, wow, 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 wow.
Okay. This is with the construct trigger on the stack.
believe it's with the spell on the stack.
Okay.
That way Urza
Pithing
can't
Needle.
respond and make a bunch of mana or anything.
And Ely's going to Needle Thopter Foundry.
This is brutal.
So Allie will get the token, but now is being kept off the combo.
Yeah, this is pretty bad for Warfield. She needs to try and find a way to get this Pithing Needle off the battlefield, especially when you know that your Urza's probably about to get in touch with his wild side.
Become a little more feral there. On Allie's side, the construct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. That is the smaller of the two. And her last card is Ensnaring Bridge now.
Also kind of playing with fire because once again, Oko can just answer this.
Right, and this is, I think, what the addition of Oko to the deck does, is that it gives the deck just, you know, in a lot of ways, this is the Assassin's Trophy slot in the deck. It's just generic answer.
Right, it also has the benefit of being a proactive card at the same time. That doesn't even get into the fact that it's a bit easier on the mana.
And I guess once the board stalls out like this, then because he is the one with the Urza, Ely can either attack or he can just start using that 5 mana ability. And that's what he'll do with the second Urza ability.
Yeah, and at this point, Ely's comfortable just playing a value game. This Oko allows him to shut down Allie's card advantage engines while maintaining his own.
Every turn, Oko makes another mana source as well. So Mox Opal was the hit off the Temporal Aperture ability. I think that's the card.
It is.
All right, there we go. Right, that 5 on the bottom. Shuffle your library, exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost.
Well, you would tap Temporal Aperture.
That's true. Urza just has one in his hand.
Somehow Urza's abilities are just better than Tellurian Academy and Temporal Aperture. No big deal.
So 1 blue mana floating, then Ely casts his second Mox Opal. Does have enough mana to Aperture again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus the 1 mana from the Mox Opal. Here is the Mishra's Bauble off the top. Now use the Oko, and yes, Allie's Urza will be turned into an elk. And I guess at this point, Ely doesn't mind that the Ensnaring Bridge is in play.
Right, this is a spot where it's kind of protection for Oko in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a reciprocal effect, so both players are unable to attack.
Well, theoretically, Allie is the one who has agency over that, right? She could sacrifice
playing
Chromatic
cards.
Star and then go up to 3 cards in hand.
Sure, and that looks like that's what she'll do. It's a good call. And Goblin Engineer going to be the play. Is there an artifact?
So this might be a way out.
Yeah, let's see what she can get access to. I mean, it's going to get turned into an elk. Right? It's going to be Elk
That's true.
Engineer. Pithing Needle into the graveyard. She would like to get that on play on Oko. I don't think it's going to happen.
Wow, these players are actually just going to end up staring at each other.
And that'll be until Ely finds... Well, I guess he did Pithing Needle. Oh, right. So Ely can win here if he gets the combo. He then can elk his own Pithing Needle and then win.
Ooh. This is a nightmare.
This is -5. Ely will trade his Mox Opal for Allie's Goblin Engineer.
Oh, Goblin Engineer didn't become an elk.
No, it just Oko does something else.
And now Allie has to choose a Mox Opal to keep.
Yeah, at the tap, she's going to go ahead and get rid of the elk. Actually, just wants to keep the mana source.
Yeah, at the point where you're playing cards out of your hand below the Ensnaring Bridge threshold, it's kind of evident that the 3/3 body isn't something you're particularly interested in.
Well, if we had questions about whether or not main deck Oko would be good in this matchup, I think this game has really addressed those concerns.
Right. This has kind of gotten past the point where comboing is that big of an issue and is at the level where it's sort of a grind fest until someone's able to pull the trigger on that combo.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like in a lot of ways this Oko has just been repeatable. It's a 3-mana Planeswalker that has a plus ability of a removal spell on any artifact or creature.
Very reasonable.
It's been ridiculous, right? Allie continues to, she's had 2 Mox Opals and an Urza all turned into Elk. Her Goblin Engineer has been traded for. And this is all off the back of 1 Planeswalker.
Yep. Was just not very good either. This is just, it feels like Allie's had the draw, and Oko is just worth so much on his own.
So going back to this early game, she did whir for a Thopter Foundry. Perhaps that needed to be a Pithing Needle for Oko? Are we in that world?
It's tough because her having the Goblin Engineer in her hand means that if Ely hadn't had the Pithing Needle, she likely won on the spot.
Right. Okay. So it did make sense. She took a bigger risk by getting the Thopter Foundry. It didn't pay off.
Right. It feels bad whenever those types of things don't work out. But considering the alternative was doing nothing, it's hard to falter for going for it there. At some point, you have to take that kind of risk in order to try and win the game.
Well, especially, you mentioned that game 1 is more or less a combo race.
Right.
Another Goblin Engineer here for Allie. More like Goblin Elk Engineer. Boom.
Hard to turn a wrench with hooves, Matthias. Do you ever try to use pliers without fingers?
I have not.
Yeah, because you're not an elk.
Sort of the
All right, half the combo.
Half the combo's there. Well, yet. I haven't played against Oko yet. Blue mana, another Mox Opal.
Is that just the 4th Opal this game?
That is the 4th Opal. We have 2 in the graveyard, 1 on the battlefield, and the 4th one is on Allie's battlefield. There's Thopter Foundry. And Allie is going to pick up cards. So, game 1 does go to Ely Kassis. Uses Oko to really control the terms of the fight, and then eventually Urza carries the day.
Yeah, that was just a spot where it felt like with Allie deploying out 1 threat a turn like that, it was just difficult for her to do anything in the face of that Oko. Ely was just kind of able to dictate what it was her cards did, which is to say not very much.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I was really impressed about this game, was that it didn't really feel like Allie had live top decks to draw to, and that was all because of that Planeswalker. Looking at some sideboards for the players. This is a mirror match here in round 2. So a lot of the same tools are available. Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay. You see Allie has 3. Ely has a 2-2 split. We do see Thought Seizes on Allie's side, which Ely actually doesn't have access to that effect in the matchup. And also Ceremonious Rejection for Allie's side. So my first reaction is it feels like she has a better sideboard here.
Yeah, it feels like she's able to lean into the control role a little bit better and interact with what Ely is doing. And it's probably going to be good for her just because she has a bunch of cards in her main deck that just aren't doing a whole lot. You aren't super interested in Tormod's Crypt, for example, in this matchup. So if she just tries to lean out of things that Oko is going to be able to answer more easily and just goes into these more interactive pieces, it's more likely she's going to be able to fight through the prison that Kassis tries to build.
Well, if you want to try to get some Okos here, they're from Throne of Eldraine. That is now available for order at Star City Games. StarCityGames.com/ELD can find all sorts of great cards, as pictured in our feature match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is one of the more push sets in a long time. I guess it's between like this and War of the Spark for probably the best set in the last like 3 years or something.
I think on average, I agree. My take on that would be, I think the average power level of War of the Spark is higher, but the top 3 of Throne of Eldraine is higher.
Medium take that I believe a couple of our writers over on the website agree with. Oko, best planeswalker of all time.
Yeah.
Better than Jace, better than Liliana, just actual GOAT.
Yeah, so that's what I feel like. Throne of Eldraine, you got...
Well,
you
Elk.
It's the actual... Oh. So we have Oko and I think Once Upon a Time, which are just incredible Magic cards.
Yeah, they're just so good. They make your deck either so consistent at what it wants to do or interact by preventing your opponent from doing what it is that they want to do.
I like free Magic cards. Spells that you don't pay mana for.
Let's be honest,
good.
you also like lands, which are free Magic cards.
Yeah, spells you don't have to pay mana for.
Yeah.
So, yes, lands that are spells attached to lands that I don't pay mana for. Boom, we're on target.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Killing it.
I like the good argument where it used to be, hey, what's better, Primeval Titan or Grave Titan? And then I say, why not both? Because now Primeval Titan gets Field of the Dead. So it's just Grave Titan now.
Oh my gosh. Why wouldn't it be, to be honest?
It's just both of them.
Oh my gosh.
So some big cyber play. So because Ely doesn't have this kind of plan, because I think for Ali, Thoughtseize, Ceremonious Rejection all seems pretty good here. What does he do differently in the matchup?
Really, we might see the Decays and Assassin's Trophies come in order to let him interact a little bit. It's also, if he thinks Rejection or Thoughtseize are coming, that he could lean into something like Veil of Summer, because it is just very powerful and kind of free against those effects.
Yeah, I would say, what's the fail case if you bring in Veil of Summer?
You eventually get to cycle it.
Right, and that's
more than likely, of course.
There's enough blue cards, I think, in the other player's deck that even if you don't know if they're bringing in discard, you can probably just bring in Veil of Summer on a whim.
Right. Countering, quote-unquote, an Abrupt Decay or an Assassin's Trophy is also incredible.
Does counter an Abrupt Decay. Oh, that's nice.
Well, it does. It kind of.
But Abrupt Decay
can't
be countered.
Well, it's actually
That's only hexproof from...
It can't be countered by spells and abilities, and it is being countered by the rules. So, checkmate.
You need to get those cards that just straight errata, just can't be countered, period. Well, game starting out, similar start to last game for Allie. This time she's on the play.
Very different start for Ely.
Yeah. Snow-covered forest.
What do you think 1 green mana smells like?
Well, I don't know what mana smells like, but...
It smells like summertime to me.
I would say probably pine needles, because it's a snow-covered forest. That's like what that normally smells like.
It's a veil of summer all around.
I don't like that that's being cast off a snow-covered forest.
That is a non-bow for sure, but maybe
that shouldn't be allowed. It should be Veil of Summer can only be cast with non-snow mana. I think that's the rules. The flavor judge.
I would love if there was any drawback at all to playing snow mana. That would be incredible.
You cannot cast cards with summer in their name.
Boom. Oh, here comes a power play. Okay. All right, let's go.
Land, Opal land, Oko. Yeah, so that thing that happened to Allie last game, that was so fun that she would like to be on the other side of it now.
Honestly, I love this new look.
There we go. This is great. This is so much better than last game. Mishra's Bauble from Ely and a pass. That is not going to keep up.
If he had a trophy or an Abrupt Decay, I imagine he would have used it there, but it's possible he's afraid of getting comboed out and is trying to play a little bit more conservatively.
Urza. Allie.
Off to the races.
Yeah, here we go. Turn 2 Oko, turn 3 Urza.
Don't make it weird.
Ely will bobble and look at her top card. Urza resolves. A fatal push, though. That was the revolt that Ely needed.
Okay.
This is with the construct trigger on the stack. Now Allie still can make 3 blue here if she'd like. And might do that.
Yeah, and she could even make other colors because of these astrolabes.
Blue, blue. 3, turn a blue into something else.
Imagine a black is what we're going to see here.
Thopter Foundry? No, just Thoughtseize. But now they know the Thoughtseize are in the sideboard. Is it coming? It is.
Oh.
Off. I don't like it. I don't like the flavor judge disapproves. But
maybe it's just summer in Greenland.
There aren't forests in Greenland.
Okay, it's summer in Alaska. That sounds like the name of a John Green book.
There we go. Yeah. Emery, the last play here for Allie, using the remainder of her mana. Still gets the construct token, though, right? I think they're asking whether...
It's tough, because I imagine it was acknowledged that the trigger was on the stack.
Yeah, this is something where a judge is going to have to be involved. So she has cast an Emery. We've moved past the point in the game. However, if at some point, I believe, if Ely said trigger... The question, which I think is going to be asked, Ely clearly, in playing the Fatal Push, probably said something along the lines of construct trigger on the stack.
Right.
Now, the question I think they're going to have to ask the judge is, if Ely said those words... Is there a construct trigger on the stack now?
Right, and it's tough because if he didn't say something like that, he wouldn't have had priority to Fatal Push before Allie did something else.
Yeah, one thing you can't do as a player is you can't progress your opponents through their own triggers.
Correct.
So, you know, I can miss my own trigger, but you can't make me go through my triggers.
Exactly.
So, and I think this is going to be interesting. We'll get you the judge ruling on it. You know, you might say at first Allie cast Emery, which does show, hey, she didn't make the construct token, but if Ely acknowledged a construct token, it might happen anyway.
Right.
And the judges, I believe that is the ruling here, and you see Allie is awarded the construct token because Ely's Fatal Push play made it exist.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, good ruling. I think good question too, though. You know.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's see if Ely is going to have his 3rd permanent to add to the battlefield.
Yeah, right. And Ely, the reward is now he makes an astrolabe. And
all right, 3 permanents to 11. Let's go.
Here's Chromatic Star from Kassis. But so far behind, I mean, one thing about these mirrors is there's a lot of low-impact cards in these games. So when a player draws multiple high-impact cards, as we've seen Allie do, Oko, Urza, Emery, it really can snowball a game.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly a point here where we just see... Ely's deck, he kind of drew some reactive cards and a bunch of air, whereas Allie drew cards that are just far more substantial.
Veil of Summer hitting Thoughtseize is good, but if you aren't protecting anything with it, you know, you're protecting your hand from a Thoughtseize, which the upside feels like if you have that Oko, if you have that Urza in your hand, this play is great. But if it's not in your hand, I don't really care that you're countering Thoughtseize.
Right, I can agree with that.
Meantime, Allie, more food, more cards. This construct now up to, let's see, 3 food tokens, 6, okay, a 9/9.
Nice.
Next turn it can be an 11 and be lethal.
Right.
Plus, yeah, Oko pluses to make a food. Emery brings back an artifact from the graveyard. There we get to 11.
That just kind of looks like a grip of lands on Ely's side. Oh, no, I'm wrong.
He does have an Urza and a Thopter Foundry. but this, I mean, it might just still be too far gone.
That's true, right? This is certainly a point where just having this many permanents is so strong against that construct token.
Well, here is Urza from Ely. His token just a 3/3, not quite the 9/9 that Allie has.
It's what we call a blocker.
I thought you were going to call it an elk.
I lied. It's not a blocker.
Now it's a mana producer. 2 blue. For Pentad Prism. Is it just Prism on 1? It is. An underwhelming Pentad Prism. But I guess it taps for a blue, so it still is a Prism for 2, kind of.
Okay.
And then that makes Thopter Foundry.
Oh, and now you get to sacrifice the depleted Pentad Prism for the Thopter Foundry.
Yeah, Prism taps for a blue. He'll sacrifice the Chromatic Star. It does draw a card this way.
Right.
1 life and 1 Thopter. Ely up to 12. But his hand appears to be 2 lands and an Assassin's Trophy.
Trophy plays if he gets another turn.
Yeah, he doesn't actually have the mana to make black-green right now.
What if Allie trades a food for an Urza?
It's a good trade. Good trade. I'll take that one. Then she's just a Thopter Foundry away from an infinite combo.
Oko has just dominated these games. I know in a
Oko's
lot of
really
ways
good.
it feels like it hasn't necessarily been super impactful, right? At least this game. But the things that it threatens are just so much.
It's just a 3. I mean, I think I'm going to go back to what I said when it's a 3-mana Planeswalker that has a plus ability that's removal.
Oh, was that an Urza off the top?
Well, I guess we don't have to trade for the Urza anymore. I would say she could steal the third part of the combo of Thopter Foundry, but you don't really get to steal Thopter
Yeah,
Foundries.
that's a tough one.
You have to find a way to get all these artifacts to be tapped before pulling off a play like that. Back to some mana here. Black mana. Looks like she is going to trade the Opal for Urza. Now has a lot of blue mana available.
Oko just offering deals the opponent cannot refuse.
What a trickster.
I was thinking mobster, but sure.
The Thief of Crowns. Right, that's like the flavor. Is that Oko is almost supposed to be sort of a puck trickster style character?
Oh, Oko is firmly chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
There's an entire book about him trying to send an entire plane into war and never telling anyone why.
See, that's nice.
Just 'cause.
What a trickster, turning all these things into elk.
I like the counting on the construct. It's like, all right, what's the size? All right.
Big.
I have big. All right, it's a big. Got it.
Yeah. I love calling. That's a good, love that. Calling creatures, that's a big. Another aperture from Urza is another Oko. Sure.
Fresh.
Gonna make an elk.
I wonder if there's a line where you elk the Thopter Foundry just in case.
Sure. I mean, I do just like kind of full cleanup mode where you just answer all. Your opponent played a thing. Better deal with it.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, and we see Allie going for mana here with Emery.
Good Assassin's Trophy, the Thopter Foundry. Not even gonna elk it, just trophy it. Maybe elk up. Well, anything, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Maybe a food token.
Maybe there might be a chance she just wants to put it up to 6 so she can threaten another exchange ability.
I guess make another food token seems fine. That's what she'll do. I guess you're right. One thing that I keep, and I'm learning as I'm watching these players who have a lot of experience with this deck, I think my first reaction would be to try to attack with these large constructs. But the safer line that they seem to like to do is when they have Oko Urza, is instead you stop attacking. You hang out behind a giant construct, you make artifacts every turn, and then you start using that 5 mana ability on Urza to close the game.
Right, we see Allie with just 3 different go over the top card advantage engines here. She doesn't need to end the game.
Construct token hit by Assassin's Trophy. Not terrible, but I don't think Ely has enough power on the board right now to attack down Oko.
No, this is a lot of the reason that we likely saw her hold back the construct.
Actually, hold on. There's a Mox Opal that she traded him, so this is an attack of 6.
So now she has to choose between Oko and Urza.
That's the Oko go. Now, she has another Urza in her hand, so I almost thought she would go the other way with it.
It might just be that she doesn't want to spend the mana on the Urza itself and figures that with the Sword of the Meek on the battlefield, she should just be aggressively digging for Thopter Foundry.
Goblin Engineer was the pickup. And I do think you're right. This may just be a safer play.
Right, this actually ends the game here as well.
Oh, right, because it has Emery in play. She actually this is just over.
Yep.
Okay, game 3. Yeah, so the line there is Engineer will get Thopter Foundry, put it in the graveyard. Emery will tap, she casts the Thopter Foundry from her graveyard, and then the 3-card combo of Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek is, well, Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek is 1 mana to make a Thopter and gain a life. But when you put Urza in there, every time you bring it back, that gives you the mana. So now it's make any number of Thopters gain any amount of life.
We're talking dozens of life.
Yeah.
So despite these decks being called Urza, it feels like the games have been about Oko.
Oko. Sultai Oko versus 4-color Oko.
It's almost like how Splinter Twin might have been named after Splinter Twin, but a lot of times the games were about Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. Oh, man, I have so many opinions on that. People are like, I'm so smart, I boarded the twins out. I'm like, that's just what everyone does. That's just how you play the deck.
Yeah, everyone's so smart, Matthias.
Everyone is, yeah. There
Everything
we go.
is awesome.
You know, it's funny we're talking about that, whereas really, I'm not even sure Oko or Urza is the best card in the deck. That's probably still just Mox Opal.
Well, I think Oko's better than Mox Opal. There's my hot take.
Whoa. That's too hot. That's ridiculous. That's like leaving the stove on when you leave the house hot. That's burning down the house.
I do that too, but
I like my 0 mana permanent mana sources.
Look, here's the thing. Have you had your Merit Lage elked yet?
No, he's doing it on there and stuff. It's a Mox. It's a Mox.
All right, well, I can't argue with that. It does have Mox in the name. You nailed it. How do you feel about Mox Tantalite versus anything, any other spell?
That one's not as good of a Mox.
It's a Mox.
That one's not as good
It's
of a Mox.
It's a Mox, yeah. Matthias.
It's probably still decent.
It's a Mox. 1-drop fight.
Well, without either player having Mox, we can talk about those last games that Oko ran away with them, but I also think that the fact that both those Okos started with Mox Opal bringing out turn 2 Oko is like a subtle part of the runaway. That's okay, right? Like, if one of these players had a Mox Opal here, boy, that player sure would be winning right now.
Well, it's possible that Ely still has it, because we saw both players kind of get punished for exposing Mox Opals to early Okos.
Now I don't think he has it.
I also don't think he has it.
But yeah, I think you're right. That actually is a really strong play. Ely just making Thopter Foundry. So for game 3, we're kind of seeing what it looks like when neither player has the runaway turn 2 Oko.
Well,
Allie might have a turn 3 Oko.
It's her turn 2 now.
If she has an Opal.
Yeah.
She also has 2 Pithing Needles. And one of the things about these Whir of Invention mirrors is sometimes post-board you get these really weird games where Pithing Needle is on everything. Just every card, like Needle on Thopter Foundry, and Ely comes back and goes, fine, Needle on Oko. And then they go, okay, fine, Needle on Urza. And then suddenly things get weird.
Oh, yeah, you're just kind of staring at each other.
Yeah. Did you ever play like Lantern Mirrors where there'd be like a Needle on Codex Shredder, a Needle on Lantern of Insight, a Needle on Bell, a Needle on...
Oh, yeah.
And you just like...
There are actual 5 Pithing Needles in play.
And there's just needle on everything.
And both players have needle on Codex Shredder for some reason.
Yes,
You
both.
go,
Yes, there's 2 needles on Codex Shredder.
I don't understand how it's correct for both players to want this, but the game's been long enough that...
And I like this from Allie. She goes needle. First, she goes needle on Thopter Foundry, which makes sense. You just play Thopter Foundry. Her second play is really interesting. So she saw that Oko in her hand. Her second needle was on Oko.
Right, so this is a spot where she's trying to force Ely to commit his next turn to actually answering one of these needles.
Needle from Ely. Is this one also on Oko? No, she's going to crack her bauble in response. This is nice. This is one of those everything is needled games.
Oh my gosh.
Look, I bet the construct token gets to attack in these games.
I mean, the game's got
Until
to end
Bridge
somehow.
shows up. That one's on Emery. All right, checking them off. I got the deck list here, and I got a pen, and I'm putting check marks next to cards.
I know we don't really do bingo cards anymore, but do you think we can get Nick to whip up some bingo cards for every card with an activated ability in these decks?
Check.
Maybe we can do it like tic-tac-toe instead.
Oh, that's nice. He doesn't even have Emery's. So I have to write Emery at the bottom, and then put a check mark next to it.
But do you have 3 in a row? No.
They're not in a row. No, if someone needles Damping Sphere, I have 3 in a row on the deck list. Goblin Engineer from Allie. Can Ely find another Pithing Needle?
Ooh, this lets Allie reset Pithing Needles as well.
Oh, hold on, I did this in pen. This is a problem. Hold on, I need an eraser.
Does anyone have like one of those Tide pens? Can we? Matthias made a mistake in ink.
I need a new worksheet.
Well, there goes
There
Goblin
we go.
Engineer.
Okay. Fatal Push takes care of Goblin Engineer.
Is that a second engineer in hand?
I think we see Thopter Foundry.
No.
I like that Allie control. Okay, she does have another Goblin Engineer. I love that her hand has an Oko and a Thopter Foundry in it, and she has needled both those cards.
I imagine one of them came after the needle.
She's just needling her own hand.
The other one definitely did not.
Nature's Claim from Ely on...
We don't know.
We don't know. One of the two. I think it's the Foundry, but we're not sure. No, it's the Oko. It was the Oko. The Oko needle is gone.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
And that's likely going to hit the Pithing Needle.
Well, maybe. Unless he has to get the Engineer. And that's what he will do. He'll elk the Goblin Engineer. He also does not have Goblin Engineer in his deck. That's really interesting. Ely has neither Goblin Engineer nor Emery in his deck.
He's probably just leaned further out of creatures and doesn't want to be exposed to other Okos as badly.
I guess if this is how based on how these games have played out, that feels smart. Mm-hmm. Oko down to 2. Allie casts Emery. Now, remember, Emery is needled, but it still attacks.
Got to pressure that Oko somehow.
Yeah. 8 minutes remain in the round. Ely checks top card with a bauble. He replaces the bauble, 3 cards in hand. It looks like we have Abrupt Decay, Whir of Invention, and then maybe it's either Veil of Summer or Nature's Claim is the 3rd card.
I believe that is a Veil of Summer. I see an uncommon symbol. Veil of Summer's brutal here, too.
Yeah, this hand's going to be hard to beat. He is taxed on green mana, however.
That's true. Without an Arkham's Astrolabe, he is kind of priced into keeping the mana available.
Yeah, you saw that turn. Ely made a food token, likely just to get 2 more loyalty onto Oko.
Mm-hmm.
So Allie attempts to attack that down. Ely will Abrupt Decay one of the 2. And goes in and removes the creature that he had previously elked. Allie had Mystic Dispute in her hand, but because their Musal was Abrupt Decay, there's no play there.
Yeah, can't cast it, can't be countered, the whole 9.
And right, she doesn't have the 3rd mana source, so can't.
Well, here it is.
There we go.
Maybe wanted to play that pre-combat to play around Assassin's Trophy.
That actually is true. Allie's hand, Thopter Foundry, but that's needled.
But how long is it needled for?
Oh, actually, because now that the Oko needle is gone, Allie can make her own Oko.
Ooh.
And this one does work. Needles are on Emery and Thopter Foundry right now. She'll create a food token. Ely checks top card. 6 minutes remain. You can see both players really have picked up the pace. They are aware. It's about a minute of sideboarding at most for this 3rd game.
You do not want to end up with a draw this early in the tournament. We are at the phase where in day 1 of these events, a draw is not a loss, but it isn't that different from a loss.
Right. Number of players we have this weekend, 6-2-1 is likely a day 2 record. But that doesn't mean you want to just take the draw.
Exactly.
Those of you new to our 2-day opens, the end of 9 rounds today, any player tied for top 64, whatever record is in 64th place, that record will become the cutoff record.
Right.
Any player with that record or better makes it in. Guaranteed 7-2 will make it in, though I don't think that's any different than the first sentence.
Agreed.
7-2 likely to be better than the record in 64th place.
So we see a Sword of the Meek and Thopter Foundry hiding out in Allie's hand. If she can just find an Urza, that might be it.
Okay, so I mean, I guess she has Urza, she has Emery. The graveyard is reasonably stocked with artifacts here. She can get back another another Pithing Needle.
Right.
Do you think she wants to re-needle the Okos here?
Not before she activates hers.
Sure. I like that. Food token. It's going to elk up.
All right.
I guess Emery is still needled right now. Okay, so they swing in at Oko.
And this makes sense. Why needle the Okos when you can just have the only one?
Right, so now it's gone. Ely setting up for a whir. I mean, I think we can find Sword of the Meek, but he still has to make it through a Pithing Needle.
Right.
What else do you think he finds then? It's just 2 mana, so it still feels like that's the play. And it's for 2, so
all right.
on the board it looks like it's going to be Sword of the Meek.
Yeah.
Maybe just get it out of the deck. Well, he was going to try. Mystic Dispute took care of it.
Okay. It's got to feel bad when you have that Veil of Summer in hand. Ely's just taxed on mana.
Oh, if he just had one more mana?
Yeah.
Well, he did have a tapped Elk token. That would have... Yeah, no, that doesn't even work. So Elk swings in at Oko. Oko down to 1. There's that 4th mana. He does have another Whir and a Veil of Summer, so he can go for the play.
All right.
Now.
If at first you don't succeed...
Elk again.
That's basically Oko's life motto.
Here's a word of invention from Allie. And does Kassis have a play? I don't believe he does.
He's likely thinking if he wants to just cycle the Veil of Summer here.
If he had counter spells in his sideboard, I might take a stab at it, but I don't think he does.
No, yeah, it's there. He might just want to cycle it.
Yeah. And she finds Welding Jar.
I like this, so it looked like she was going for a higher number.
Yeah, just overword.
Right.
Allie's hand, Thopter Foundry, Pithing Needle, and a land. So not much help there. Why a welding jar here?
So the idea is she has the combo in her hand, or the Thopter Sword combo in her hand.
Right.
So she just wants to make sure that stays online through an Abrupt Decay or an Assassin's Trophy.
Okay, here's Thopter Foundry. But minute 37, gotta be careful here. What is the plan? I guess, is it to elk the Pithing Needle when she's ready to combo?
I imagine that is the case here. She's just looking to have a bunch of mana to make a ton of Thopters in a single turn.
Okay. What Ely can do is if he whirs for his own sword here, then she can't really make that play.
Correct.
That's what he's going to do. A minute left, though. We may be headed for a draw between the two.
So it's tough because you can make infinite life in Thopters in turns.
Well, I mean, if you have one attack, then you're good.
Right.
But you need Urza for infinite.
Right, so this is a spot where even with Thopter Sword on the battlefield, Ely still, if he can destroy this Pithing Needle, is restricted to 4 activations a turn.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like... Well, we'll see. Either maybe could a player win here. He's going to equip Sword of the Meek to an elk and attack. I love this. +1, +2.
What is going on?
It'll get the block. The food token's down.
I just feel like I've stepped into an alternate reality.
We're playing limited now. All right, Allie draws. Blue creature, I think it's another
like
Emery. It looks like another Emery, yeah. If it was Urza, that was what we were looking for. But we'll confirm here. If time's called here, it looks like Allie will be turn 0. That gives her turns 2 and 4. Yeah.
She could try elking the Pithing Needle on Emery.
Allie is turn 0, so she's going to... She casts her own side of the combo, and she's elking the Pithing Needle that's on Thopter Foundry.
Okay.
All right, so now both players have Thopter Sword online. Allie does have more mana sources, but, you know, there's a worry, right? The concern here is that if Ely just drops Urza, she loses.
Right, yeah, no, this was a
big risk.
Precarious spot to be in, but when you get to turns like this, you just want to try and get the game over in your favor, one way or another.
It's not necessarily... I'm interested as, like... I think in an untimed game, this is the wrong play to get rid of that Pithing Needle. But maybe you disagree. But
right.
I respect that she's going for this, but she certainly is putting a loss on the table by playing it this way.
Absolutely. There's a lot going on here.
So just kind of crossing fingers saying, I hope you don't have an Urza. And it looks like he doesn't. Turn 1 is Ely's. Attacks at the Oko. The elk. Not the Sworded Elk.
Activate Sword of the Meek.
Allie blocks an elk. Remember that needle no longer an artifact, so it can't be sacrificed. So Allie's now going to get 3 activations in here. We're still on turn 1. These were end-step Thopters. And on this untap, we'll be on turn 2. Boom. Turn 2, Allie's.
I guess now Allie gets to Oko the other Thopter Foundry.
Yeah, is that Urza? Did she just pick up Urza?
Oh my gosh.
If she did, because she needs it this turn. No, it's an Astrolabe. But it could find an Urza.
I can't take this.
Another Astrolabe into Thoughtseize. Yeah, Veil of Summer. No.
She can no longer Oko the other Thopter Foundry now.
So, because this is turn 2 and Alex's turn is turn 4, can she win anymore? Or she just... Because if she can't, then I think she needs to just play for the draw.
Yeah, this is...
Right, if she found Urza that turn, she could win. But she didn't.
Right. Is there a world... I guess since she can't hit the Thopter Foundry anymore... Is there a way where you can loop Pyrite Spellbomb from your graveyard if you have infinite mana?
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. But where do we get all the red mana from?
I don't know. Looping Astrolabes? I'm not saying you definitely can. I'm just...
Oh, you mean to make infinite mana?
Right.
I think there's a line. It's really hard. And now we're back to Allie's last turn. She draws a land. It's not there.
Ugh.
And Ely didn't find it either, so we are headed to a draw. Both players are hoping to find an Urza. Allie's going to elk the Thopter Foundry.
Do what you got to do sometimes.
I mean, this does feel like, in an untimed world, Allie has the advantage here, but different things would have happened.
Right.
And knowing Ely, both players here, they are going to take the draw, would be my suspicion.
I would be surprised if either player conceded here. It feels like Allie's slightly favored, and if we're being honest, Ely is not that far behind.
He is still, he is still one Urza from winning himself. He's got a lot of percentage to play for.
Right, you could just Urza, activate Urza, flip over a Thopter Foundry, and you win the game.
Astrolabe. Maybe there is a line if he draws Urza there. Okay, he found it. Is there a line?
Turn 5.
Is there a line?
Oh
you
my
want to talk
gosh.
about if there's a Pyrite Spellbomb loop that you mentioned, I bet Ely knows it.
Does he have Pyrite Spellbomb?
Aether Spellbomb.
That's not it.
He does
not.
Well, he has Battle at the... No.
Battle at the Bridge that only hits creatures.
And Allie conceded to the
Wow.
Urza. That is really... Okay. I'm wondering if that was a courtesy concession or whether Ely actually has an executable win on turn 5.
I think it was a courtesy.